Rob, thank you so much for agreeing to have a chat with me on my quest to find a party worth voting for. I think probably the best thing to start is for you to introduce yourself and pitch your party, I guess.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I'm Robert. I am a 43-year-old married dad of two in the suburbs of Canberra. I'm the national president of the Australian Progressives, and I have been since July 2018. For my professional background, I'm a former army officer, specialising in transport and logistics. And I did a bit of study in urban planning, which is what got me into politics in the first place, back in 2012, 2013. And I was originally going to join the Liberal Party, but from a standing start, learning who the Liberal Party were actually, or who they are, what they were all about, I realised it wasn't the place for me. So I went looking for something else, and that's how I ended up in the Australian Progressives. They were a minor party, then still are, but pretty new to the Australian field of politics at that time. And I was sort of an observer on the sidelines and realised, wow, these guys need to, we really need to get organised, because whilst there was a lot of great idealism and great thinking, there wasn't much structure or strategy. So using my military experience, that's where I sort of jumped in and said, all right, let's put some structure to this. And so since then, it was probably 2015 that I joined. We've developed a whole bunch of internal processes, structures, strategic plans, that type of thing, and we've really started to put some rubber on the road when it comes to actioning those plans. So last year we ran in the federal election, specifically in the seats of the ACT, with a view to raising our profile to running in the ACT election, which is coming up in October this year. Mm-hmm. So we sort of set ourselves a long-term strategy that we start at that lower level, that sort of council and state level elections, where we build our profile through a real grassroots movement, we've taken a leaf out of people like Helen Haynes and Zali Steggall out of their book, and how they achieved their success, and that's through simple conversations with neighbours, friends, colleagues, that type of thing. Start, at that really base level and build our way up from there. The party is founded on 6 values. It's our 6 E's. It's ethics, empathy, equality, evidence, engagement, and empowerment. I'm impressed with myself that I remembered all those. That informs. We're not about idealism. We're not left or not right. We're pragmatists, basically, and so that those things inform our policies and our overall view towards things. It's interesting because when we do have these one-on-one conversations, and particularly in Canberra being a fairly progressive sort of electorate, when we have these one-on-one conversations, more often than not, people are really interested in what we have to say, and the message that we're getting here in Canberra in particular is, wow, we've been waiting for something like this. It's the alternative to the major parties is finally here. You're not a bunch of crackpots. You're everyday people who, you're intelligent and have sensible approaches to policy, that type of thing. So, yeah, it's quite nice to see. It's building slowly, but it's it's getting there.
And how would you, in a really sort of almost elevator pitch, how are you different to the major parties, and how are you explaining that to the people that you're speaking with?
Yeah, so we're basically pitching ourselves as middle of the road. So we're saying that we are, if you want to put us in a box, we are centre left, but we sort of reject the idea of where we sit ideologically, and we're different because we're fully democratic. We don't have factions, although I know that's a factor of being a minor party and not having a large membership. But we've tried to build it out of our structure by ensuring that we are 100% democratic all the time. So the way we elect our leaders, when we get our parliamentary representation, how that's decided upon is very much down to the membership. So our policies were 100% member produced. It's a very flat structure that we have. And yeah, like I said before, we try to stick away from idealistic approaches to policy. It's not about dogma, it's about evidence, and it's about rational approach to that policy development. So, we're positioning ourselves as that really sort of measured, intelligent, rational middle ground.
Just a comment on the structure. So from what I believe, the Greens have a similar kind of theory or ideology that's built into the Constitution, which does require the membership group to vote on pretty much everything, and for it to pass to get something like 75%, and I could be wrong on that, but from memory it was something like that. My experience is that's really held them back in terms of just making internal decisions. So how is that different to the Greens and potentially that drama of being able to make executive decisions in order to get functional things happening versus the necessary democratic mechanisms that means it doesn't end up becoming like a LNP?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the development of these ideas, the development of policy, it is done within a committee. So we've got, a small group of people that come up with these ideas and put them forward. And the idea is that we get them to a finished state through those committees, and then they're presented to the membership, and the membership has a look to them and says, I don't like it, or I think we need to, change a few words here and there, or they endorse it. And it's always a simple majority when it comes to how those policies are decided upon. So I know where you're coming from. It's a tough thing. You don't want to be held to ransom by an ideological rump of the party, as you've seen with the New South Wales Greens. So I know that's an issue. Unfortunately for us, it's not something we've come across yet. And yeah, I guess the way around it is going to be, if we ever do come across this problem, then we need to address it as adults and change our processes to try and
increase efficiencies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, but as it stands, the key decisions, the key executive decisions, are made effectively because they're made in those committees. And if somebody has a problem with it, then they can just raise it with us, and it's discussed in an open and transparent way, and decisions are ultimately made by the national executive or the relevant state executive.
Well, as I said, I think it's likely to be a problem when it gets bigger, as the Greens have encountered. But the fact that you're open to being agile and changing that if need be, I think that's what's held the Greens back. So they're just flat out refusal to address those issues has been largely what's made them quite ineffective. So the fact that you're willing to change it if it needs changing, I think is an immediate departure from them.